Hello and welcome back to Tobacco Road and Abroad. My name's Gareth Parsons, joined by Aiden Moore. We've got a lot to cover today. We've got some, obviously, College World Series to talk about, NHL, NBA, and some U.S. Open. So without further ado, we'll get into it. All right, so first off, is there any matchups you want to get into, or do you kind of just want to go bracket by bracket?
Let's just kind of go bracket by bracket. Going into the first bracket, we had Coastal Carolina coming out of bracket one. They were able to basically do a clean sweep of the entire division, starting off going up against Arizona. They won that match 7-4. Moving on, they played the winner of Oregon State versus Louisville. That was Oregon State, so they were able to take them down 6-2, and that brought them into the finals, where Louisville was able to beat Oregon State, making the matchup Coastal Carolina versus Louisville. Coastal Carolina takes care of business 11-3. Coastal Carolina takes down every team in this bracket and does it in a very convincing manner. Coastal Carolina just proving that they're one of the better group of five teams in the nation, and definitely not a team to take lightly at all. And as I just want to bring up Gareth's narrative that he brought up earlier in a different podcast. The Sun Belt definitely needs to be reconsidered in this whole power conference structure in college baseball, because this is like the caliber of talent that you see out of the Sun Belt. I feel like more eyes need to be put on the Sun Belt right now. They are definitely like, with Coastal Carolina performing in the manner that they have, I feel like you can make the case that there's a lot more to be had with considering putting more Sun Belt teams into the tournament moving on from now, because like teams like Troy that I believe got snubbed are just a level of talent that I feel like people aren't really considering, and I feel like a lot of people are overlooking them. And I'm really excited to see how Coastal Carolina ends this tournament run, because they have a good shot at the championship.
Yeah, I agree, and I will say they have two national championship appearances in the last decade, and that's more than most Power Five conferences right now. I think outside of the SEC, I think that's more than every other conference right now. They have two by themselves. So, and if they're able to get a second national championship in a decade, I definitely think we need to have the Sun Belt should at least be getting Power Five adjacent considerations, like we see with certain conferences in the NCAA tournament, like the A10. The A10 gets a few teams in, but I think they're in a higher, they're a stronger conference. At least if we go look at it comparatively, like in baseball, than the A10 is in basketball right now. So
Hmm.
I think they deserve at least a few at-large bids in that conference. So for me, I agree. It was just kind of a clean sweep, and that's the kind of like you said the main story. I mean, Louisville had a nice bounce back game against Oklahoma State where they won in just absolutely wild fashion. They had a big lead, they choked it away on some errors, and then they walked it off in extras. So
Hmm.
ultimately, it was an interesting game. It was a nice follow up to their first game in which it was kind of a tight contest where it was a back and forth affair in which Oregon State walked it off at the bottom of the ninth um, after Louisville tied it. So obviously there was some great matchups in that. There was really only one blowout, which was Coastal Carolina and excuse me,
Louisville.
Coastal Carolina and Louisville. But outside of that, I mean, it was a very entertaining. Unfortunately, I didn't get to watch much of it as I would have liked, but it's still nice, entertaining matchup. And with that, we'll be on to bracket two. Bracket two, the first game was UCLA and Murray State, which we predicted. I predicted a blowout, but a loss is a loss for the sake of our argument here.
Hmm.
Then from there in the second game, LSU wins 4-1 over Arkansas, sending them down to the losers bracket. Game one of the losers bracket. Unfortunately, brother, it was not raining. The Arkansas pitcher was one walk short of a perfect game, allowed one base runner in which he beaned the batter, which even then, you look at replay, people believe the batter leaned into it, so that would have been a strikeout for him leaning into it. So he was one beanball away from an absolute perfect game. He still threw a no-hitter, no hits, no runs, but he was shy of that perfect game because of that walk. That was absolute domination from him. That was something that I found incredibly impressive. And that's one thing that Arkansas is kind of known for is their pitching staff is usually really lock in. Gage Woods is his name. Gage Woods also set the record for the most strikeouts in a College World Series game with 19. And it's the third only ever no-hitter and would have been the first perfect game in history. And that was a bad call, beanball away from that. So, and you'd think, what's the you think like, oh, what's this guy's reaction to this? Like he ought to be over the moon. And in his thing, he said, I shouldn't have hit the batter. And he was like angry about that, which, that's son of a good player. I mean, he should be able to take his wins there, but I like that motivation. Moving on from there, we have LSU handedly taking care of UCLA 9-5. LSU came out, just monster of first inning. Several just kind of errors that led us in scoring. There's one of the big ones scoring plays was the infield single, which allowed all the runners to advance, and then a fielder's choice by the pitcher in which he made the wrong decision, which, it was a rough game, I'd say, for UCLA. They made it interesting. The tying run actually came to the plate several times in the 7th, 8th, and 9th. So the chances were there, but LSU's defense was able to kind of lock it down. Moving on from there, we had Arkansas and UCLA. Arkansas handily taking care of UCLA 7-3, and then we had LSU in Arkansas for the regional final, which I saw part of with my girlfriend last night. And I've only got one word for this game. And it's my dad's favorite word to use when fishing doesn't go planned. Clusterfuck. That was a clusterfuck of a 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. Now, I will say, Arkansas had this game in hand. It was in hands a little generous. They were in control. We'll say that.
Yes.
So in the bottom of the 9th, Arkansas was leading 5-3 when Hernandez hit what should have been a routine fly ball to left field, but one of the outfielders for Arkansas misread the ball and dropped it. I'm not going to blame him because after looking back at some stats and just kind of their season and hearing a press conference for their coach, that guy who dropped the ball was the guy who's kind of bailed them out all season. And he's been the guy making clutch plays, making these crazy catches in the outfield. He's been consistent. He didn't really have any errors all season, so he was bound to have one. So he's like, we're not going to crucify him. Like, everyone makes mistakes. This was really his first big mistake of the year, but obviously, it came at the one time you can't have a mistake. But after that, immediately following that play, there is a bloop single in which they scored to walk it off in the bottom of the 9th. Absolutely brutal way to lose. Even the UCLA coach was like, you can't even pin that on that guy. He's been perfect all year. So nice to see some respect between the two programs, and LSU is returning to another national championship. So that leaves us with Coastal Carolina and LSU for the Natty. Any initial thoughts? Who do you think is going to win? How many games do you think it's going to? People to look out for?
I'm pretty high on Coastal Carolina in general. I feel like they have a overall fundamentally sound team, and I just like their makeup, and I feel like them being a Sun Belt team makes them kind of a little bit of an underdog when it comes to just basic just eye tests. But if I have to look at big batters that I'm looking at, Colby Thorndike, I like him a lot. He has a pretty solid on base percentage, and has really been pretty proficient at the first base position. And just looking at other players, Dean Moise, the designated hitter, he's been producing big bats all year, and I think he's going to be a player to look out for. And when it comes to like pitching, there's just solid pitching depth when it comes to Coastal. They have Riley Ecoff, Matthew Paddock, and Hayden Johnson, all very solid pitchers and proved themselves pretty well in this past tournament, especially against Louisville. I feel like those are going to be my players to look out for. I got Coastal Carolina winning this one. I think it's going to go to 3. I give Coastal Carolina the first game. LSU comes back in game 2, and then Coastal Carolina is able to close it out in game 3.
That's kind of what I've got as well. I've got 2-1 win and Coastal Carolina winning at 3. People for me to look out for, I agree with all of them. One person that I think we haven't seen a lot of because Coastal Carolina really hasn't had to use them is their reliever Lynch. And I know what you're and for a reliever in college to have 35 strikeouts with how few games there are, that's a lot. And what's even more surprising is relievers tend to have an even more inflated ERA because they usually only pitch 1 to 2 innings. So any runs they have, that you multiply the number of runs you have times 9, then you divide by the innings you pitch. So if you give up 1 run and it's your first game, and even if you have several good outings, that's still an ERA of like 4 or 5. He has an ERA of 0.5, which means if you were to let him pitch for 9 innings, he still wouldn't even give up a run. So this guy's absolutely locked down. I mean, both of these, like you said, both of these pitching staffs are absolutely locked down. Anderson for LSU, 170 strikeouts, 11 wins, 3.4 ERA, which in college, you're usually okay with starters having a little higher ERA with metal bats because I forget if I had this spiel in like the last one where college, there's stuff that would normally be a foul off. That's a hit. There's, things that would be a routine ground ball in the majors, but because it's a metal bat, it's a fucking triple to left field. We've got stuff that would be a routine fly out, but because of college, it being a metal bat, it's fucking out of the park, 500-foot home run. So, that's what makes college unpredictable. I will say, while both teams have been very solid on the defensive end, errors have kind of been, there's been a little more errors than I've expected to see here in Omaha. But, hey, the bigger ballpark, allows the wind to swell, makes you misjudge balls. But like I said, I've got Coastal winning this, and I think pitching, obviously their bats have been huge. But for me, I think it's going to be the pitching staff because we know LSU has big bats. So the difference is, can this Coastal pitching staff hang on? And I think they can from what we've seen and what they've done to other SEC teams. So for me, I've got Coastal winning the series 2-1 as well. That'll do it for our College World Series segment today. I'm sure we'll have, obviously, next week we'll have a breakdown of the College World Series, and then we'll just have some final takeaways, thoughts, some trends we've noticed. We'll just kind of go over kind of end of the year style, kind of like we did. Obviously, not like college baseball or college football and NFL where we had a full award show, but honestly, that was goated. But like I said, we'll have more breakdown next week for that. So, what do you want to do next? NHL or NBA?
How about let's do a quick detour into the MLB because there was a very big headline that I wanted to bring up with you. We didn't talk about it too much in our pre-screening, but we did talk about it a little bit through text, and I just wanted to get your opinion on it. In Boston Red Sox news, Rafael Devers was traded to the San Francisco Giants. Just an outsider looking in, this was definitely a big-time player for Boston, but I know he was a little bit polarizing. So I do think this trade might just be mutually beneficial, but as somebody that is a little bit more in tune with the Red Sox, I just wanted to get what was your take on this?
I have multiple takes. Obviously, there's conspiracy theories out there. There's stuff going around. There's people like, the whole like my dad talked about it. My dad was a Red Sox fan growing up because there really wasn't many MLB teams in the North Carolina area. He was like, oh, he's like, it was a big thing for the Red Sox. Whenever they got a big player, they'd just trade them cash.
Mm-hmm.
They just trade them for the cash. Like Boston's an expensive city, rent's expensive. Yes, they're an old ball club, but it's really hard to get people to come play in Boston. If you got like, a star that's having a down year, sometimes it's just an easy cash grab.
Mm-hmm.
Other ones you've said, other ones that I've heard is, and this isn't my take. This is just I'm gonna lay out all the rumors. I'll kind of give my response to them, and then give what I think. Another rumor, for those who don't know, there's the Fenway Sports Group. The Fenway Sports Group, they own a lot of charities. They obviously the Red Sox. They own some other things, but they also own Liverpool Football Club. And if you're
Mm-hmm.
aware, Liverpool have recently made a very big purchase. They've purchased a really young German striker that I like, that I wanted for Chelsea to get. His name's Florian Wirtz. Um, he's an absolute fucking demon. There's a rumor going around that they traded Rafael Devers for cash considerations to pay for Florian Wirtz because the owners are the same, which means theoretically they could shift funds in between them. That's not how soccer works. That's called fraud.
That's got to be a violation. That's got to be illegal.
Everton's owners did that and got points deducted. Manchester City's owners have done that, and they're currently under investigation for 115 counts of doing that. So very illegal. Well, okay, this will be my clip for the episode. For you Red Sox fans that are saying that this is how they funded the Florian Wirtz trade, teams get auto relegated for that. Teams get points deductions. They get bans from the Champions League. They get bans from winning trophies. They get kicked out of any sort of tournaments they're in. Now, it didn't happen to Manchester City. That's another story. That's another rant for another day that I'll rant about them not getting caught.
If they get caught.
If they get caught, which, they've been caught on 130 counts last trial and nothing happened, if they get caught. It's only a problem when teams other than Man City do it, but when Chelsea does it, it's the end of the world. When Everton got caught, they overspent by like $100,000, which is like or something like that. It's that's pocket change to a soccer team. They lost like 15 points, and they were in a relegation battle. They still fought their way out of it, but like they would have been middle of the pack, but because they got lost 15 points, they were fighting against relegation. I'm just saying, MLB fans don't know how all kinds of illegal that is in the soccer. They don't know how all kinds of illegal that is. Like you are cooked, my guy. Now, would Liverpool probably get away with that? Absolutely. So I will say the fears are valid, but they also need to understand how all kinds of illegal that is, and only teams like Man City get away with that. Like, I think Liverpool would get absolutely fucked over that, in my opinion. Yes, did they just win the Premier League? But I think they're okay. I don't think they really needed the cash to pay for Florian Wirtz. So, and honestly, they only got prospects. Yes, they got the cap space, but there's no way they're going, we're going to cash out on this cap space and put it to Liverpool. That's just not happening. So, there's all sorts of rumors. Apparently there's alleged like stuff where Devers asked to be traded, all that type of stuff. I'll address that. So, I've been trying to do research, and I didn't necessarily have enough time to do research to do this. And a lot of Red Sox fans are upset because we essentially traded Devers for an outfield prospect, which we don't need. I mean, for those of you who don't know, half of the Red Sox players right now are prospects. I mean, Roman Anthony, Marcelo Meyer, and Christian Campbell. Christian Campbell, they just sent back down to the minors, but Marcelo Meyer has been nuking balls left and right as prospect right out of college. Same thing with Roman Anthony. Roman Anthony's kind of coming into his own. He's the number one overall prospect in baseball. So Red Sox fans are like, we traded for 2 okay pitchers and a prospect. We already have 3 prospects. We have to take care of a 4th one. Can we really handle that? Honestly, and I'll go over who they traded for. Give me a second. And I've got a counterpoint. I've got a counterpoint to everyone saying that the Red Sox may affect this. So let's look at the Devers trade here. Who did they get? So obviously the San Francisco Giants got Rafael Devers, who the Red Sox actually play next week. So that'll be interesting. So Boston received Kyle Harrison, Jordan Hicks, and James Tibbs, who is a rookie league right-hander, and rookie league right-hander Jose Bello. But the interesting thing about this trade is the Giants are now responsible for covering the rest of Devers' contract, which, sometimes that's standard for a trade. Sometimes it's not. So first we'll look at Kyle Harrison. Kyle Harrison has a 4.5 ERA with a whip of 1.27. Honestly, I don't think he's that bad. If His ERA in the last 7 days is 5.4. But honestly, I am not too upset about this. I mean, the Red Sox pitching staff outside of Garrett Crochet has been kind of iffy. And with the limited amount of innings that Kyle Harrison has, that ERA is going to line out. That ERA is going to flatten out. So I'm not too worried. ERA of 4 is fine. We have some pitchers who got ERAs of 5s and 6s. Honestly, probably an improvement. And Red Sox fans are probably going to crucify me for saying that, but whatever. You know, I think Boston fans sometimes like to oversell how bad of a situation they're in. So, sorry, Sarah. I think some people overreact on this. Also, then Jordan Hicks. Okay. Jordan Hicks, if I'm being completely honest, Jordan Hicks probably not the best look. He's 1-5 this year, 6 ERA, 43 Ks, whip of 1.5. Honestly, not the best look. Could the Red Sox have shopped around more? Yes, but I don't. Yes, is this probably not as good of a trade as people think it is? Yeah, but I don't think it's the end of the world. But and yes, Rafael Devers. I think the timing is bad. I think this trade's been in the works. And yes, Rafael Devers game winning. Did we find this out like hours after Rafael Devers game winning home run against the Yankees? Yes, probably not the best timing.
Yankees lose.
So probably not the best timing. But here's my take. The Red Sox are very good at starting games, but it is the pitching rotation that is letting us down. We are actually up there in run production in terms of we're top 5 in runs scored in the MLB, I think, or were in the one point in the last couple of weeks. And yes, was Devers a big part of that? Is Devers a top 5 hitter in the league? Could they have shopped around more? But honestly, for the cap space he was taking up, for the off the field problems he was causing, with the amount of injuries for those who don't know the Red Sox have had, Rafael Devers, wanted to play third, but then obviously Alex Bregman is our third baseman. No, that whole meme. But Alex Bregman's hurt. They tried to get him to play in the field. He refused, which in my case, you're being paid over $300 million a year. You're playing wherever the fuck the manager tells you. I'm sorry. Then they tried to get him to play first base after another. He's not a prospect anymore. He's a pretty good first baseman, but he's mainly a defensive first baseman. Tristan Casas tore something in his leg. He was trying to beat out a pitch, got to first base, or beat out a pickoff, or beat out a throw to first. He got to first base. As he hit the bag, something in his leg gave out, and he's done for the season. Like, he couldn't get up. They had to drag him off the field. But I will say, main thing, could they have shopped around more? Yes. Is this the worst thing in the world? No. I'm actually okay with Kyle Harrison. Jordan Hicks is obviously a reliever, so like his ERA be slightly inflated. So I'm not too terribly worried. Yes, I know Red Sox fans, like, we've seen this before, writing on the walls, that type of stuff, and them like losing it. But honestly, Kyle Harrison, he's a young guy. He's a prospect for the future. And I know there was a lot of hype around this Red Sox team preseason, but with how they played in the injuries, this isn't a World Series winning team. So if you can get under Kyle Harrison's feet under him, he hasn't had bad seasons. He's been fine. And for a 23-year-old pitcher, he's doing pretty damn good. He's pretty good against, his ERA has mainly been an issue in the last couple of days. All right. He was previously to the month of June, he had a 2.5 ERA. He had a Ruffle Cup. He had 2 or 3 rough outings, and that's caused his ERA to balloon, which for those of you who are like, I mean, I'm sure everyone's been in school. You know how everyone jokes about, you get a good grade and it barely bumps your GPA and it barely bumps your grade. You get 100 on a test and your grade goes up 0.5%. But then you get a 70 and, your grade goes down 10 points. And, you got your parents up your ass and you're frowned. That's kind of how baseball ERAs work. This dude was wheeling and dealing coming into June. But throughout this month, he's been struggling. Previously to June, 2.5 ERA, 1-1. Hadn't really seen the field too much, but that's still not bad. 1 win, 1 loss. 6 games played, 2 games started, 14 innings pitched for only 4 earned runs. Only giving up 2 home runs and 16 Ks in that time, allowing people on base 0.1% of the time. Not bad. June's been a little bit more rough. He's had eight earned runs and 9 innings. Not the best. He's played 2 games in that time. But that's how inflated ERA can be. You can have two bad outings and it completely tanks your ERA. I mean, a 4.5 ERA is not bad. That's about the league average. And I can get the Red Sox worries that, you just traded, Rafael Devers for an average pitcher, a reliever who's not doing too hot. But in the past, he's been good.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, he's had really good seasons. He's just in a little bit of a slump right now. Like Jordan Hicks is a solid reliever. And yes, you've got 2 prospects and then a rookie league pitcher. I can see where the issue is, but I think with all the off the field issues he was causing, this is the right move. Yes, should they have shopped around more? Yes, but I don't think this is the big, throw your hands up in the air thing that the Red Sox think it is. Now, let me give you a little bit of historical context. The last time the Red Sox seemingly traded away a absolute, big bat, Nomar Garciaparra was a 2-time batting champion. And he was traded for Orlando Cabrera and Doug Menskowitz, who were kind of mid players at the time. Boston fans lost their mind. What ends up happening that season? Boston wins their first World Series in 86 years, despite trading away their best player for nothing. Now, like I said, I don't think they're winning the World Series this year, but the last time you guys did this, it was fine. You guys did this in 2018 after you won the World Series, and then you were fine for a few years. Yeah, you had a rough year last year, but you were in and out of the playoff contention. And with how American sports works, after you win like a title or two, unless you keep winning, the luxury tax hits. Players want big money because they've realized their potential.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think the Red Sox are in as big of a hole as they think they are. So, well, also, I know I've been talking a little bit around it. Like, I've had a lot of thoughts.
Yeah.
Are the Red Sox screwed? No. They just showed in the Seattle Mariners series they can win with. Yes. Are the Seattle Mariners kind of a middle of the park team? Yes. But the struggling pitching worked itself out in that series. Not only did Garrett Crochet perform well, which he always has this season, but kind of the supporting cast, the supporting pitchers who have struggled, were really good. So, checkbox number 1. 2, yes, they could have shopped around more. I hear that. They could have shopped around more. Check the box, okay? Detriment, all right? But we also don't know everything behind the scenes. We'll probably find out more in the offseason about the trade. 3, the last time you traded away a player like this, you won the World Series. Do I think that's going to happen this year? No. This Boston team's not winning a World Series. Do I think they can make the playoffs and make a run? Yes. I just think they're too inconsistent to be able to have consistent success in the playoffs. 4, last time you traded away some decent players, you weren't bad. You still made the playoffs. And you've got a young pitcher who you have a chance to mold. He's shown promise. You've got a reliever who's in a slump. And baseball is very similar to other sports where, if you've got a guy in a slump, he's due. That's a big thing you always say in baseball, where you've got a hitter in a slump. He's due. We've been saying it about Rafael Devers all year. He started out 0 for 20 at the plate. And then he's somehow now a top 5 hitter in the league, not even a month later. And obviously people have breakout years. They'll slowly increase their stats as they go along. Pitchers' ERAs will slowly come down. If they're really true all-time greats, they'll slowly bring down their ERA. They'll whittle about it. They'll have a breakout season. But a lot of times when it comes to your average for the year, It ebbs and flows. You'll have games where you'll have a stretch of games where you're really consistent, and then you'll have a stretch of games where you give up fucking 14 homers in a 10-game span. And then you'll throw like fucking 9 shutout games. It's just baseball is a game of numbers. With how many games you play a season, it all evens out. Like unless someone's having a historically good or historically bad season, it all evens out and things end up as they should be. So I will say, yes, are you going to be costed a few runs this season? Yes. But I think I think Marcelo Meyer is going to be the big bad that Devers was? But no. No. But if you've got a prospect who hasn't even been up 3 weeks and he's hit 4 or 5 home runs already, I think you're okay. And he's going to settle in as the season goes in. If Marcelo Meyer in his second start hit 2 back-to-back home runs at back-to-back at-bats, you've got something special there. Marcelo Meyer is going to be special. Roman Anthony, who finally hit his first big league homer. Yes, his batting average is in the toilet. But if you've looked at what he's been asked to do, he's been asked to hit sac flies and lay down bunts. So, of course, his average is in the tank. He's finally showing promise. Christian Campbell, who's been up and down and gotten into a few scuffles, he's looked good, but he's back down in the minors for getting into fights. But, he's looked good. Garrett Crochet's dealing. Your pitching staff's looking like it's finally evening out. I think you're going to be okay. Narvaez, oh my God, had the series of his life against the Yankees, was hitting homers left and right. Wilyer Abreu's coming off of the IR, who before he was going on the IR was out hitting Rafael Devers. He was leading in batting average until that time. I think the Red Sox are going to be okay. Boston fans just don't want to hear it because it's not Brady level success. That is my take. Boston fans cannot handle a little adversity because they had such constant success. Yes, did they go 10 years in that Brady time without a Super Bowl? Yes, but they were a constant contender in that time. They were so spoiled with the Patriots, they cannot handle not being constant contenders. You talk to any Bruins fans about this past couple seasons, they're in shambles. Marshy's in Florida winning a Stanley Cup. Yes, the Rats in Florida. Okay. And this could be, I'm newer to the MLB and I just don't get it. I think the Red Sox are going to be okay. That's my take. The Red Sox are going to be fine. Okay, will they maybe not score as many runs? Okay. Will that cost them a few games? Yes, but I think ultimately what's meant to happen will happen. But what was going to happen this season will happen anyway. And I don't think that's a World Series. I think they'll make the playoffs, but the World Series is never going to happen this season. That's my take. Red Sox fans, you'll be fine.
Well said. Well said. This July, I do plan to maybe see 1 or 2 Boston Red Sox games with Gareth. I'm going to be making my trip up to Boston, shipping up to Boston, as they say, and I would love to go to a Red Sox game. I'm looking at a couple games right now. One game that's really sticking out to me, obviously, in my time there, they are going to be playing Tampa Bay. That's a very big divisional game, but one game that I'm interested in is the Toilet Bowl game against the Colorado Rockies. I think I would really love to see that match and just see how the Red Sox perform, because the Colorado Rockies surprisingly have actually been a little bit on a come up lately. Kind of going a little bit under the radar with a historically just awful start of the season, only having 9 wins to 50 losses. But I'll tell you what, the Rockies have been able to string together a couple solid wins against the Nationals, being able to go 4-for-1, 4 wins, 1 loss against the Nationals, and getting some wins in there against the Marlins, swept the Marlins, and getting 1 win against the Giants. Things might be turning around. No, they're not really turning around in Colorado, but that's something that's interesting to look out for in the MLB landscape. My Chicago Cubs are the head of the Central NL Central right now. they've been on a pretty big roll as of late. I feel like they are continue to maintain this level of dominance. They are definitely a shoe in for the playoffs and definitely going to win the NL Central. Going 2-for-1 against the Pirates in this previous series, getting a win against the Brewers, losing tonight, but things are looking up in Chicago. Definitely some standout players that I want to give a shout out to. Pete Crow Armstrong leads the team in home runs with 20 home runs this year. Only rivaled by Saika Suzuki, who has 18 home runs but leads the team with 61 RBIs. The Cubs have the bats and very solid pitching lineup with Matthew Boyd having an earned run average of 2.79 and Ben Brown, 88 strikeouts as a starting pitcher. I'm pretty high on the Cubs right now, and I'm excited to see where they're going with the summer, kind of slowing things down in the sports world. I'm really excited to kind of get back into baseball and keeping up with that. So the Cubs are definitely a team that I'm going to be looking out for. Obviously, the Boston Red Sox. Since Gareth, you're in Boston, I'm going to be paying more attention to the Red Sox. The Yankees. I know, Gareth, you have some opinions on the Yankees going on a little bit of a slide lately. I feel like the American League East is definitely going to be a lot more up for grabs than we originally thought. The Yankees started off dominant, but just fell into a slump against the Red Sox. And with teams like Tampa Bay and Toronto, and hell, maybe even Baltimore, like you don't know. Like this is going to be a division. Like I'm going to be honest, I'm keeping my eye on just because there's no real uh, like front team that's like head above everybody right now. I mean, obviously with the Orioles 11 games behind, I kind of have them out, but Boston's making a little bit of a comeback right now, and you got to keep your eyes on Toronto. Toronto's been very solid as of late, and you just don't know with this division. Um, Going into that kind of like sums up a little bit my brief MLB analysis. I would like to jump into NBA and NHL stuff. Garrett, do you want to cover the NHL Stanley Cup?
Yeah, I got it. All right. So obviously we just had the finish to the Oilers Panthers series. I got my prediction incorrect. I had the Oilers winning in 7, the Panthers won in 6. Obviously, so first game of the series, Oilers win in overtime. Draisaitl was absolutely huge in this series. I mean, Sam and also Sam Bennett as well. Draisaitl and Connor McDavid were really the story in that game. Game two, game two, Panthers fired back with a 5-4 win in overtime. Very, very similar, stars here. Brad Marchand and Connor McDavid. Marchand had kind of quiet all playoffs. He didn't really start scoring until in the latter part of that Carolina series. So it was nice to see him finally get his traction. And Boston fans certainly aren't happy. I'll quote one of my swimmers who is like the biggest Boston Bruins fan. She said, "It's nice to see him succeeding, but she knows it makes me cry when he scores." So, because she's like, that should be us. And I was like, fair point. Obviously, 6-1. Next game was a 6-1 thrashing of the Oilers, which was just that honestly surprised me. But I've got a point to make after this. I mean, obviously Brad Marchand, Verhage, another one, Sam Reinhart, Sam Bennett, just kind of all the names you've heard all postseason. Just with how many goals they're scoring, you wouldn't be mistaken to assume that even like random 4-year-olds know who half these people are, like Ekblad, Rodriguez, just everyone. Then game 4 was a little bit of a reversal. Oilers pulled back even, win in overtime. Obviously, Tkachuk. It was an interesting one because the Panthers jumped out to an early lead with Matthew Tkachuk scoring twice within quick succession. He's been kind of hot and cold in the playoffs. He went 9 playoff games without a goal. Then he scored a few goals in the Carolina series, and then went really quiet in this series. And then 3-goal second period from Edmonton from Nurse, Nugent, Hopkins, and Paul's Klein. And then finally, John Wallman scored in the fourth. Sam Reinhart tied it with no time left, and then but who to win in overtime? Draisaitl will win it. Then we go back for Game 6, in which the Panthers beat the Oilers by a significant margin at home. Marchand with 2 goals, Sam Bennett with a goal. Then finally on Tuesday, the Panthers absolutely thrashed the Oilers on home ice 5-1. Reinhart with 4 goals, Bobrovsky 28 saves, 96% save average, to Chuck with a goal. Overall takeaways from this series is 1 point, which I will make towards Carolina Hurricanes fans, but we'll get to that in a second. Obviously, I'm a big fan of how this Panthers team's built. Obviously, Panthers are a team that's built for the postseason. And in season they're a dangerous team, but in season that they drop series that's just kind of like absolute head scratchers. They're very similar to the Panthers in terms of their record and win percentage. It was just like, people were just kind of like, oh, are the Panthers going to do it again this year? But then obviously similar to last year in the playoffs, they just turned it on. I think that has to do with who they have. I mean, Sergei Bobrovsky getting up there in age, but certainly not showing any signs of slowing down. For me, he might be player of the playoffs, but honestly, for me, that's got to go to either Reinhart or Bennett, just with how dominant they've been, their ability to get goals. I mean, Tkachuk obviously has been great on this. He did a good job of being able to be a supporting player. He's usually kind of one of their bigger guys. Tkachuk is the big guy for the United States when we play internationally. So, but just overall, it's great playoffs. I thought Edmonton were a little better than that, but for me, this goes to prove this is a proof of concept. We've mentioned on here the Hurricanes and the Panthers have very similar style of play in terms of defense and build-up. Now, the shot selection is where they vary. The Carolina Hurricanes go volume, whereas the Panthers, they're okay with, taking more calculated shots. But how they get to those shots is very similar. They build their offense the same. They play defense the same. And it's a proof of concept that style of play works. A lot of people, I think when the Hurricanes got eliminated, were saying, we need to stop with this style of play. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It does. It does. It does work. The other teams who played this way performed way above average for how they should be playing. Minnesota plays the same way, which is very uncharacteristic for a Western Conference team. Minnesota plays the same way. What do? They punched well above their weight in the playoffs. Carolina made it further than they should have. The Panthers turn it on in the playoffs. This chaotic way of playing hockey, I'm going to liken it to soccer. So, in soccer, when you play for your club, you can have more intricate strategies because you have more time. There's less roster rotation because you have a set roster. But when you play internationally, you have to have a more simplified strategy because you have less time. There's more injuries because you're playing more games on top of your club games. You have less time with these guys. The cohesion's not there. Similar to playoff hockey. Playoff hockey's rough. There's more injuries. There's a lot more lineup rotation because there's a lot more at stake, which is where this simple strategy comes in. It's just basically play hard, play defense, just overwhelm them. And it works. It's a proof of concept. Now, I've seen stuff covered on other sports media outlets, particularly NHL Network put this thing out on why they think the Panthers just have better players than the Hurricanes. It's not that they're have more potential. It's just the Florida Panthers roster's a little older. It's more refined. Their forwards, their defenders either are more experienced or aren't as old. Brett Burns kind of lost a step, obviously. On the other end of we've addressed the issues with Carolina's defense, but at least on the forward side, the big difference was the forwards. Carolina just wasn't able to finish. Our forwards are very young, whereas Florida has very established forwards. And when they found out they were lacking, the one line they were lacking on, they'd go out and get Brad Marchand. Like they had Sam Reinhart, Connor Verhaeghe, Sam Bennett, some of the best forwards in the NHL. And I think Carolina going forward needs to be building towards that. I mean, Dmitry Orlov, he's been fine, but he's getting up there. He made some very costly mistakes this year. If Carolina wants to continue to play this way, they need to model themselves after the Florida Panthers, which obviously, to Brandon Moore's credit, is what he's done. And he's brought this hockey club back from the depths. But we're going to need to continue to build this roster in the offseason. Yes, we've got really good, exciting young players coming in. And I know this is all of a sudden turned into a Carolina Panthers thing, but or Carolina Hurricanes thing, but it's a point I wanted to make that the proof of concept is there. We just need to continue to build. But back to the series, obviously entertaining series. I didn't get to see as much of it as I would have liked, but I just think with how the Panthers are set up, they're very dominant. Can they keep these players through this offseason? Will they be able to survive the luxury tax? I don't know. Will they keep Marchand? Will they not? Will it be like the Hurricanes when they picked up a bunch of people at the deadline? They just let them go in the offseason? I don't know. Depends. I'm curious to see what the Panthers do with it. I'm curious to see where the Hurricanes go. So, obviously, good series. I'm going to move on to the NBA.
Yeah, moving on to
Or do
the
you have anything else?
NBA. Well, I just want to say in the NHL, obviously, I feel like my player of the series definitely Sam Reinhart. The four-game performance in Game 6, that was just something special. Sergei Bobrovsky gave us fits as a Hurricanes fan, but just really, really efficient in the net and just overall very impressive performance throughout the entirety of the postseason on his part. I do want to say one thing that I thought was kind of funny. I was seeing in a bunch of uh, I've seen memes of it, and then some broadcasts. I saw this on like one of the broadcasts, just like the Connor McDavid reaction, to losing the series. I think that I I don't understand. Maybe I'm just a little bit hockey ignorant in this case because I really only pay attention to the Hurricanes. I don't understand what the hate boner is for like Connor McDavid and the Oilers. It seems like what I've been seeing a lot on Instagram and like Twitter and all these things is just Connor McDavid not getting his championship or whatever, and people just kind of like highlighting that. Like, I don't know, he's a very solid player. Maybe I'm missing something on like his maybe behavior or something like that. But from what I've seen, he seems like a pretty solid player and a good guy overall. I don't know, but I just find it funny that a lot of people are kind of highlighting his reactions and stuff like that to losing the Stanley Cup. And I'm I don't know. I not my wheelhouse, if that makes sense. I'm trying to pay attention to everybody that's going on. I just maybe I'm missing something, but I don't know. Do you have any insight on this, or is this just a weird hockey thing? Because
This could be a generic, but
mhm.
my opinion is small market team and they're good. I
Yeah,
think it's just they're annoyingly good. It's a small market team. They're annoyingly good. I don't know. I don't
I,
think
I
it's
was
annoyingly good. I just think
I was just trying to find something, and I was like, well, why do people seem to hate this guy?
I could be absolutely missing something as well, but in my opinion, it's just I think it's that it's a small market team and they're good. It could just be the Canada memes that it's
Hmm.
a Canadian team hasn't won the Stanley Cup in 32 years, so I don't know.
Yeah,
It could be.
yeah, I don't know. But moving on to the NBA Finals, the Pacers and Thunder are just putting on an absolute classic right now. Game 6 wrapped up this evening. We're going to Game 7 with the series tied 3-3. Indiana Pacers come away with the win tonight, 108 to 91. Pacers just put on a dominant performance in this game, and I really want to highlight the performance from the bench. I feel like that really is what carried them over. Obi Toppin scoring 20 points off 23 minutes. TJ McConnell with 24 minutes, scoring 12 points, going 50% on the field goal, and having 8 defensive rebounds with 9 rebounds in total with 6 assists. I feel like this dominant performances from the bench is really what's helping Indiana stay on track with the Oklahoma City Thunder, which is a little bit different from the narrative that I had going into this series, because I thought the depth Oklahoma City had was really going to carry them over this series. But I'm seeing depth from both sides, which is making this series an absolute classic, in my opinion. Um Halliburton is remaining proficient, but in this game six, he was just wasn't as dominant as before. Scoring 14 points, nothing to sneeze at, but I just didn't. I wanted to highlight this, not to like say like, oh, like the stars on Indiana are not shining through in this playoff. But I want to say that I feel like Indiana has a lot more depth than we give them credit for. And I think this is leading up to a very interesting game seven that's going to be going down this Sunday night. And I'm really excited to see how it goes. Just to recap how the series has been going, uh, game one went in the favor of the Pacers, 111 to 110. Halliburton got that final shot, buzzer beater to secure game one for the Thunder. The Thunder came back in game two, 123 to 107. Then the Pacers got 116 to 107. Thunder won game four, 111 to 104. Game five went in favor of the Thunder. And I thought tonight it was going to go the Thunder's way, but it's just going back and forth with the Pacers winning tonight. So this game seven, I feel like, is going to be very interesting, and it just has classic written all over it, in my opinion. I'm excited to see how it goes. I'm looking for a big performance by Cy Alexander. I feel like he's going to be popping off on game seven. And players like Jalen Williams and Isaiah Hardenstein definitely are key factors for Oklahoma City and their success. But there's something about the Pacers, man, that I don't know. Like, this is just going to be a series where I don't care who wins. I'm just excited to see how it goes. The Thunder have yet to win a NBA championship in the city of in Oklahoma City, so I think that's going to be pretty interesting. I've been texting my friend who's a big OKC fan, and he's been watching this series in anticipation. He has some things to say about Halliburton, though. And as OKC has been calling them, the Haliban, with how they've been inciting terror across the basketball court. But I don't know. My mind is telling me OKC is going to secure this game seven, but I don't know. Something about the Pacers, man. I feel like this, like, just things are lining up for them. We're getting depth. They're getting good depth play. I feel like Indiana might be able to take this game seven from OKC, which is something that would surprise me. But just with how they've been performing throughout the entirety of this playoffs, like, if there's a team that can take down Oklahoma City, I do think it's the Indiana Pacers. So I have them winning game seven. I'm predicting the upset. I'm going against all my predictions before, because I just feel like they've been playing with magic these past couple games, and I don't know. Maybe it might just be home court advantage, or something like maybe the crowd in OKC shows out for Game 7. But I'm just going back and forth. Like, honestly, I could see it going either way. But I feel like my official pick should be Indiana taking this series in Game 7.
In my limited ball knowledge, I can't tell, and I will say my expertise and spidey senses with basketball and begin and end with college. So, but it's just from what I've seen from both of them, you'd think by all accounts OKC would win this series, not in like a necessarily a blowout, but like when if push comes to shove, you'd think with the depth and just how scary they've been. But just like you said, we've made the joke on here several times, like Celtics fans talking about the Pacers.
The
That's
Indiana
all I'll say.
Pacers are what we thought. What was it? Murray State is in baseball.
Murray State when they have nothing to lose. Or sorry, it's Murray State when they have everything to lose.
But yeah. Anyway, moving on, I want to highlight the U.S. Open was this past weekend, and not gonna lie, for the first couple days, I was just not necessarily locked in. But round four, we had some really interesting golf going down. The field of play was really challenging for basically all the golfers. Like, if you're looking at the final scores of everybody, everybody's in the plus except the winner. And JJ Spawn won the tournament, final score being -1. Um, Everybody else +1, +2, +3, +4, +5, +6. You could be in the top 10 and of scoring, and you're +5 on throughout the entirety of the weekend. The roughs out in Oakmont were absolutely brutal, and some of just the putting was like the greens were just absolutely insane. There were so many shots that I saw where there was good ball placement, but you would just see it like move an inch and then just roll all the way down to the fairway. Like, it was just absolutely demoralizing. But I want to give a little highlight to JJ Spawn. Uh, he's not a necessarily like well-known golfer, very under the radar, kind of known for like just not finishing out the tournaments on the big scales. He was saying like going into this weekend, like there's just like he's got to get over the hump. Got to get over like that mental hurdle that he has, and it just needs to just figure it out. But I'll tell you what, in that back nine of round four, he figured it out. Started off the round in the final round +5, not looking necessarily that good, but then hole 12 gets a birdie, hole 14 gets a birdie, hole 15 gets a bogey, but this is when like the play like things just started to fall his way, and players were scoring doubles, and just kind of like moving their self out of the contention, and things were just falling into play for him. Um, the big highlight moment for me were the final two holes. On hole 17, gets a birdie. He's in the lead at this point, and he's going into hole 18, and he has the lead. He's got all the momentum, and Robert McIntyre sitting in the clubhouse, and he's just waiting to see if JJ Spawn can like clutch it up, or if there's going to be a sudden death. Or I believe in the U.S. Open there isn't a sudden death, there's a round 5 that happens on Monday. So he's just sitting in the clubhouse waiting. JJ Spawn hits has a great drive off 18. Second shot goes onto the green. He's on the green in regulation. He needs to make the putt in 3 to he needs to make the putt in 2 to win. If he gets in 3, he's tied with Robert McIntyre. It's going into the next day. This putt is it's 74 feet. It was 64 feet. He's on the other side of the green, and he only needs to make it in 2. Just absolutely drains it from 64, getting the birdie and finishing his weekend -1 and just securing the U.S. Open. And that was a very special moment for me. I was watching it with my dad on Father's Day, and just seeing him celebrate with his wife and his 2 young daughters, it was a really special moment. It was one of those moments, it's hard to encapsulate, where you see a golfer who's not necessarily well known, really kind of everybody overlooks him. Everybody kind of writes him out at the beginning of the week, saying he just doesn't have that thing to get him over the edge, and just overcoming that. You see him throw his putter across the damn golf course and everyone's celebrating. It was just one of those emotional moments where this year in golf has had a lot of emotional moments with Rory McIlroy winning the Masters, but this is my moment right here. Just seeing JJ get his first major win and kind of secure his legacy in U.S. Open history. And it was just one of those really emotional family moments that you see on Father's Day, and you kind of get a little bit teary-eyed. It was a great moment. And if you have the time to watch it, watch a replay of him in that final hole, I feel like you could feel the energy that comes from that moment. It was just a great moment, and I was really happy to see him win. But yeah, that was just kind of the big highlight out of the U.S. Open. Other than that, notable Roy McIlroy missed the cut this weekend, and other players of note that you could say had a interesting weekend. Adam Scott, former Masters winner, only one major champion. He had a pretty solid shot going into the final round, and it looked like he was going to maybe eke it out. He ended the round +6. Apologies, Roy McIlroy actually did make the cut. He was +7. You could have fooled me because you didn't see. I didn't see a single coverage in him going in those final 2 rounds. So apologies for that. But other notable players, Xander Schauffele +6. Let's see, Brooks Koepka +6. Jordan Spieth +9. It was a rough weekend for a lot of players, just a very unforgiving course, but good. It was good golf to watch, and I look forward to the British Open that will be coming in July. But that kind of sums up my golf coverage for this.
Yeah, it's honestly nice when you hear about that stuff, because I in golf, my golf knowledge is probably early 2010s. I'm trying to get back into it and be more aware.
Mm-hmm.
Roy McIlroy's name I recognize, but I was talking about I asked Dane about Phil Mickelson. He's he's kind of in the old people category in there, or he's they're kind of there not out of respect, but they're kind of just there because of who they are, and they're not really any challengers for the Masters. They're kind of just there for the pride.
Mm-hmm. Well, once you win
nice
the Masters, you're there for life. Like you can't you only don't play in the Masters if you just don't want to play. Like once you get like your first Masters win, you can pretty much play in the tournament whenever you want. Like in theory, if you wanted to, and you're like 80, you could still play.
Upon my limited knowledge of golf, I will say it is always nice to hear these stories. Obviously, Rory McIlroy. I mean, like I said, I have golf knowledge that's probably like 15 years old at this point.
Mhm.
So I still think Phil Mickelson's like, playing, and not just like, one of the old guys there just for the ride. But it's obviously JJ Spawn. That sounds obviously. I mean, that's a name I had heard. It's similar to like when the people at Providence I'd watch the golf tournaments. And like Bhatia is another one that not everyone knows who's you see
Mhm.
in and out of these tournaments. So it's nice to
Mhm.
see kind of this younger guard kind of taking over in golf. I mean, younger comparative to my knowledge. Like I'm talking like
Yeah.
not 60 years old. So
Yeah.
and I'm gonna start trying to pay attention, be more involved just with how big. I mean, you're into golf. I want to get back into it. I know it's big, North Carolina. It's golfing's very big up here too in Massachusetts. So it's something I kind of want,
Mhm.
maybe not play, but kind of understand more, get back into, have a better understanding. Because my current golf understanding is put that thing on the tee, whack that shit with the driver, maybe hit it with a wedge, and then put it in. Like that's the extent of my golf knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, thank you guys for listening in. We'll be back more next week with some, obviously some NBA coverage to wrap up the finals, College World Series wrap up, and then probably the wrap up of the group stage of the CONCACAF Gold Cup. Maybe some UFC if that's coming up. I forget if that's coming up, but it's probably coming up soon.
Yeah. Next
So,
week, we got a pretty big fight card, so gonna be excited to jump into that. And yeah, should be a good episode next week.
yep, no one controversial though for the UFC thing. No jokes to be made.
Yeah. I mean,
All right. Well,
there's going to be some interesting storylines, but we'll get into it next week.
okay, sounds good. All right. Well, that'll do it for us here. Thank you guys for listening in, and we will see you next week.